ago, but who had never really been heard of since. These were the sort of people who performed night after night, trying to entertain audiences who were only thinking of the money they had come to win, or, worse, the money they had already lost. The next performance was due to begin in an hour's time. The two men had already bought their tickets, but there was something they wanted to see before they went in. They only had to wait a few minutes until they were rewarded. The man in the driving seat suddenly stiffened.
"Here they are,"
he said. Two boys had just got off a bus. They were walking down the pavement, dressed casually in baggy jeans and t-shirts, one of them carrying a backpack. It was obvious immediately that they were twins, about 14 years old. They were both very slim. In fact, they looked malnourished. Their hair was black and dead straight, hanging down to the neck, and both had dark brown eyes. One was a couple of centimeters taller and a few kilos heavier than the other. He said something, and the other boy laughed. Then they turned the corner, and a moment later were gone. "That was them?" the passenger asked.
"That was them,"
the driver confirmed. The first man shrugged.
"They don't look that special to me."
"That's what you always say, Mr. Hovey. But you never know. Maybe these kids will be the ones."
"Let's get a drink."
The men had an hour to kill, but there were plenty of bars in Reno, and they might throw a few coins into a machine, too. It had been a long day. The driver glanced one last time at the theater and nodded. He had a good feeling. This time, they were going to find what they were looking for. He shoved the car into gear, and they moved off. The show that was currently at the Reno Playhouse, it had been there for the past 6 months, was called The Circus of the Mind. There was a glass panel next to the front door, and behind it a black and white poster showing the eyes and forehead of what might have been a hypnotist or a magician. His hands, disembodied, floated above him, the fingers pointing towards the viewer. It read, "Don White presents The Circus of the Mind. There are many things in life that cannot be explained, powers that exist on the edge of our consciousness. Do you dare journey into the world of the paranormal? Be amazed, be mystified. This is a show you will never forget. Featuring Swami Luvishni, world-famous Indian fakir, Bobby Bruce, hypnotist to the stars, Mr. Marvano, master illusionist, Zorro, escapologist, Scott and Jamie Tyler, telepathic twins. Performance times 7:30 p.m. and 9:30 p.m. Tickets $35 to $55. Senior citizens half price." By 7:20 that evening, a small crowd had gathered on the pavement, waiting for the door to open. There were about 50 people. Most of them had been attracted to the theater by leaflets given to them by the receptionists in the hotels where they were staying. The leaflets promised $5 off this week only. In fact, there were $5 off every week. The same leaflets had been handed out for the entire time that the Circus of the Mind had been playing, and the receptionists were only recommending it because they had been paid to do so. They would receive $5 for every ticket they sold. The audience was already beginning to wonder if the show really was going to amaze or mystify them in the slightest. The dusty brickwork, the broken sign, and the single amateurish poster were hardly promising. On the other hand, there wasn't much else in Reno that they could do for $30, and it was probably too late to ask for a refund. There was a loud rattle, and the doors swung open, pushed from inside. As one, the crowd moved forward. There were a few drinks and boxes of sweets on sale in the foyer, but they were overpriced, and no one bought anything. Almost unwillingly, they produced their tickets and passed through a narrow archway into the main auditorium. The theater contained 200 seats and was shaped like a horseshoe around an elevated wooden stage. A red curtain, tatty and faded, hung down. At exactly 7:30, the sound system blasted out a burst of pop music, and the curtain rose to reveal a dark, bearded man wearing sunglasses and a turban.
"Good evening, ladies and gentlemen," he announced. "My name is Swami Luvishni, and it is my great pleasure to be here all the way from Calcutta."
None of this was true. It was just the first of many lies. The Indian fakir was, of course, a fake.